Now, let's take a closer look at President Yoon Suk Yeol's request to Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida over the Fukushima wastewater release with Professor Kim Mi-kyoung this morning. Great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Professor Kim, President Yoon asked Kishida to include South Korean experts in monitoring the planned release of the wastewater. Now, the question is, how will the inclusion of South Korean experts be so helpful?
I don't think that is going to happen. Let me tell you why. One noteworthy interaction between the two leaders is that Japanese Prime Minister Kishida evaded to respond to President Yoon's proposal to include Korean experts in the monitoring team during the bilateral summit meeting. We can guess the Seoul government will exercise its share of influence in picking and choosing who will be included in the expert team. As you know, the Yoon administration has been supportive of Japan's plan to release the treated contaminated water. Yet, Kishida's evasive reaction seems to reflect Japan's concern that the matter of affairs can change once Yoon is out of power. Therefore, from Japan's point of view, it is better not to let any Korean experts in the group, given the possibility of regime change in Seoul. Japan would not want to play a different ballgame with a different partner. Yoon's reign will be over in 4 years, but the contaminated water release will take place over 3 decades.
Mm-hmm. Then, in the meantime, Kishida replied that he'll do everything possible to secure the safety of the release and not discharge any water that could harm the health or the safety of the South Korean people, and including those people in Japan as well. But what's your take on this?
What else can he say other than that? What he has said is about principles and normative workings that Japanese government has to engage in when it comes down to the release of contaminated waters. The decision has been made with the strong support of IAEA, but there are dissenting voices coming from various groups in both countries. People are feeling wary. In order to calm them down, the Japanese government has to send out those assuring and reassuring messages. That's what's happening. If anything goes wrong, Tokyo will have an excuse saying that they did not know at that time. Let us keep our fingers crossed that nothing disastrous is going to happen.
Sure. Securing health and safety of Korean people and Japanese people is the principle, like you said, and has to be the core of the release if it actually happens. Now, that plan appears to be very imminent, right, as early as next month. What do you think needs to be prepared, secured, or even ensured in the next few weeks or for the coming years?
Transparency. Transparency. I cannot emphasize it more. Real-time and open release of relevant information. Japan has a tendency of keeping controversial information just to themselves, and some people justify it as a manifestation of shame culture. But when it comes down to safety and health hazard, forget about those abstract concepts. What matters is people's livelihood. Transparency will allow the positive workings of collective wisdom.
Sure, keeping transparency in the entire process that will take 3 decades. Now, the two sides, Yoon and Kishida, also agreed to further tighten their cooperation against North Korea's nuclear and missile programs and provocations. Can we now say more direct diplomacy between the two leaders is fully back on track? I mean, how do you think Seoul-Tokyo ties will look from now on?
It does seem like the shuttle diplomacy is back on track. How lucky Mr. Kishida is to have Mr. Yoon as his staunch ally in Seoul. The two countries will remain, I think, cordial for a few coming years. The two leaders do seem to get along very well, and they do seem to have mutual understanding of the important and pressing issues in the region.
Sure, things between the two countries have been smoother if we have to compare with what we've gone through for the past years of, historical disputes and diplomatic struggles and conflicts. So it is better now, right?
It does seem like that. And, and what's going to unfold in the future? Let's keep our eyes peeled.
Sure.
and see how the two countries get along with each other.
Indeed. Professor Kim Mi-kyoung, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Busan this morning.
Thank you.